Hey everyone, this is Zach from TAG, and today we're going to talk about how to run efficient meetings. So I prepared, got my slides up. Let me just pull those up real quick. And let's go ahead and get into it. So, how to hold efficient meetings. We've all been to meetings where meetings don't go so well and then we don't look forward to them. So that's what today's class is all about. It's about basically figuring out why are today's meetings so dull or repetitive, or they just don't hold people's attention, and what can we do about that so that our meetings go really, really well. I found this cartoon which I thought was great, that basically summarizes how a lot of us feel about today's meetings. I've called this meeting because it's a big ego trip having the authority to call you all together whenever I want to. And I'm sure you've been in meetings like this before where you feel like this is the basic experience. And because of a lot of us having experiences just like that, there's a lot of negative connotations with meetings. They're too long, meetings are boring, they're really repetitive, sometimes they can create tension between people. And worst of all, there's no follow through with any of the things that we talk about. We basically come up with a bunch of ideas, but nothing actually happens as a result. So in order for us to make sure that our meetings are really, really successful, there's three things we need to pay attention to. Those are attention, attitude, and accountability. And there are a couple best practices for each, so we'll go through those now. So best practices for keeping people's attention: less is more. The maximum amount of time that you want to go is 90 minutes in a meeting, with the ideal timing taking 45 minutes. There's a reason that college courses are all 50 minutes long. After that point, our attention starts to wane, and then it becomes very, very hard, depending on our different personality style, to stay attentive. So when we're making our meetings, we want to make sure that we keep them to 45 minutes if possible, not going any longer than 90 minutes. Another note on keeping everyone's attention is using meetings as a way to discuss. We don't want to be calling meetings together because we need to report things. That's what email is for, and that's what phone calls are for. There's a lot of ways where we can report things that are going on. We want to save our meetings for things where we actually need to discuss. We need input between people. Moving on to attitude. What we want to do as far as attitude goes is we want to create a safe and open environment where people feel like they can actually express what's on their mind without feeling like they're going to be reprimanded if they have an unpopular opinion. This is really, really critical to making sure that our meetings remain relevant. People need to be able to speak openly about how they actually feel. And that's okay if we say no to new ideas or things like that, but we want to just make sure we use specific explanations as to why. The last thing, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we foster accountability. This means using an agenda and having action items with due dates attached. So when we're getting ready to set our meetings up, there's three things we got to do: prepare, conduct, and conclude with purpose. So first, let's talk about how to prepare for a meeting. So the first question we got to be asking ourselves is, do we really need a meeting? Do we need to have a discussion? Do we need to get everyone on the same page? This makes it really, really clear, and it helps to clarify who we need to invite to the meeting. Another thing that we want to do when we're preparing for the meeting is determine who's going to be the facilitator and who's going to be the note taker. We recommend that this is not the same person, and we'll explain why in a little bit. And ideally, you send out an agenda to all the attendees 2 days before the meeting and ask if anyone has any additional discussion topics that they want to bring up. This allows us to basically set the meeting so that people can bring their ideas, they feel heard, that we can talk about anything that's on anyone's mind. But once we have all the topics, we create the agenda, then it helps us stay really, really focused on what we want to talk about during the meeting so that the meeting doesn't drag on for hours and hours and hours. Now, when we're actually conducting the meeting, here's the steps we want to take. So first things first is follow up on last meeting's action items. This creates that that culture of accountability. If we just go to every single meeting and then we talk about stuff and then no one ever checks to see, did we actually follow through on what we promised that we were going to do last time? Why would anybody make sure that they do stuff this time? So in a little bit, I'll show you exactly how to do that. But moving on, next thing that we want to do is stick to the agenda, make sure we're only talking about those topics. Next thing we want to do is separate people from the issue. We do a lot of talks on the DISC personality test and basically how to handle and work with people's different communication styles. So you're going to want to, you should go study that a little bit more so that you can understand, you know, how some people prefer to be very extroverted and fast when they're talking. Some people prefer to be are much more indirect and keep things to themselves and will only say something if they're asked. Next thing that we want to pay attention to when we're conducting a meeting is taking notes as a group in action item format. I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a second. You know, we want to make sure when we ask for other people's input, we don't just immediately start defending our position. We want to ask for their input and reserve our judgment until they've completely spoken. We want to make sure that we're not interrupting one another. We're not talking over one another. This is another way where we can lose people's attention really, really quickly. The next thing is deferring non-related ideas. A lot of times when we get into conversation and we're brainstorming, we have these new ideas come up that are really, really valuable that we should talk about. However, if they're not on the agenda, then maybe we can parse out a micro meeting, or we can have two people get together and talk about that in further detail later. You want to make sure when you're in the meeting, it's staying focused, and this is the job of the facilitator. Another thing that ensures the success in the meeting is delegating things immediately and arranging mini meetings. So that's perfect for if, you know, non-related ideas, but really valuable non-related ideas come up. That's where the mini meetings come in. And then the last thing is make sure you end on time. People will understand that their time is going to get respected, and then they'll have a sense of certainty about, okay, this is how long the meetings take, and they don't drag on for forever. So this is one of the key things I wanted to talk about today, which is called action item note-taking. So what we do at TAG is when we have meetings, we take notes as a group in action item format during the discussion, during the presentation. So if you have projectors, you could have one projector projecting the content of whatever it is you're talking about. And then on the other projector, you have this document that you're basically editing live. So let me show you how that works. So this would be an example of how we would do this. So here you can see this is the meeting. It says present how to hold efficient meetings, review action item note-taking procedure, answer questions, and answer any questions, and submit recording. That's what it was supposed to say. So what happens is these are the agenda items, and you just kind of go one by one, and then you just cross them off when they're done. So here, I'll just put them in red if they're done. So this is where we're at. So then, moving on, there's a table right here at the bottom where it says who, what, date added, due date, and extended date. So who is basically who came up with what. So let's say we're in this meeting, and then, you know, I realize, oh, you know, I need to record this, and I need to put this on the TAG website. So then we'd put my name down here, record and upload to TAG website, date added, 11/26, due date, 11/26, extended date, doesn't matter, because I'm not going to do that. So what happens is when you're in discussion, everyone's coming up with new ideas and things like that, what you want to do is capture what people are committing to doing. And then we project this up so that everyone can see it, and then it's really, really clear. So, okay, if I volunteer to do that, that's my task. That becomes my task. We want to make sure that every task that we do is clearly delineated and there is one single person in charge of making sure that that gets done, and we record the what right away. Okay. Then there's date added and due date. That's basically just when it got added to the list. Due date, it's when it needs to get done. Sometimes people get busy and then they don't have it done by the time that they get to the next meeting. So then they would go, oh, okay, I didn't get it done today. Let's make the extended due date. Give me a couple days. I'll get it done by the 30th. Now, your staff will, people are way harder on themselves than you could ever be and get away with it. So they will hold themselves to a much, much higher standard. And believe me, if they get in front of everyone and then they say, oh yeah, I know I was supposed to do that, someone's holding them accountable, and they see, oh wow, yeah, I was supposed to get that done, they're not going to they're not going to make it a regular occurrence for them to constantly be late on getting things done. Like their extended date, that's, you just keep it there just in case they miss it, and I promise you they won't miss it again. So that's how you do action item note taking, is you basically just go through this, and any ideas that come up, you record them live so everyone can see it and that person sees it, and then you go, okay, did I get all that right? Did I get all that correctly? Then you make sure that before everyone leaves, you assign the dates and say, when can you get this done by? So that's basically how action item note-taking works. Then, let's go back over here. So that's basically what we do. After the meeting, within 24 hours, you want to send this out to everybody that went to the meeting, just so it keeps everyone on the same page. When you get to the next team meeting, then basically what you want to do, get everyone together and then review all the action items from last time. And then you can go ahead and get into the new meeting topics. Couple notes on creating a safe environment. Like I was saying earlier, it's okay to say no, but you just need to be specific with reasons why. There's tons of different personality styles that we have in every single office. Some people are high D types, some are high I, some are high S, some are high Cs. What we want to do is we want to make sure that as a facilitator, we're keeping everyone engaged. That's part of the attention. Now, usually D-type personalities, these are the people that want to get it done now. These are the ones that are comfortable leading. They want to make things very, very simple. These people are very, very good facilitators. And a lot of times leadership in companies tend to have a lot of high D style personalities. So what we want to do is we want to recognize that not everyone has that same personality. Sometimes S and C personalities, S's and C's, they are a lot more reserved. They're a lot more to themselves. They're the type of people that will know exactly what their answer is to the question that everybody's, talking about and everyone's brainstorming about, but unless you ask their opinion, they won't share it because they haven't been asked. So as the facilitator is running the meeting, we need to make sure that we're catering to those kinds of personalities where they don't want to interrupt everything, but they do have really, really valuable information. So we want to make sure that we do that. Let's remember that, all of the answers to all of our problems, our employees pretty much have all of the answers already. It's just our job to make sure that we're tapping into their expertise, we're supporting them, and we're basically having the discussions that lead to those solutions. When we conclude the meeting, we want to conclude with purpose. So the way that we do this is briefly review the agenda and points of discussion, make sure that all postponed ideas, anything that was irrelevant but also important, that we need to address in a mini meeting. Make sure that we've addressed all of those. Assign all of the action items, set clear expectations, and then get out of our employees' way. If we do that, our meetings are going to go really, really smoothly. I'm going to pull up the action items one more time. So now answer questions. Well, we don't have anybody here live. So that one I'm not going to actually have to do. That one's done. And submit recording. I'm going to do that as soon as I finish up the screen share. So this one, boom, this one is done. Let me cross that out. Okay, here, let me cross all these guys out. Record and upload to the site. I'm going to do this in 1 second. So now you can see how this meeting, it's very, very clear what's done and what's not. So this is the same kind of tool that you want to use with your employees, and hope that's really helpful. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, reach out to us at TAG, and we'll see you soon.